Can you confirm that, Alex?
I'm currently, yep, it's just loading in. We are live.
Excellent. Well then, welcome everyone to Gaming the System, to I think our 4th live stream episode of gameplay. It's me, Matt, playing God of War, and joined by Alex. And
Hi.
Hi, Alex. We're gonna have some fun with God of War on the PlayStation 5. So we should be looking at 4K 60 frames per second. And the first 10 minutes of the show are going to be spoiler-free, so you can have a little taste. And then after 10 minutes, we're going to delve into some spoiler-full goodness. You can follow us. We're only on Twitch today, but we're very, very grateful for any comments. Alex will be watching the comments, and we'll be engaging them as we go along. So let's get cracking. We'll just go with the balance experience. It's so interesting. I only realised recently that he, when he's cutting down the tree, he smashes directly into the handprint.
Yeah.
And we'll probably talk about what that handprint signifies later on.
Indeed. Yes, that handprint is on the front of my book, God of War Lore and Legends, which I have in my hands right now.
Yes.
But it's a very awesome book that I got for my birthday last year. Thank you. And it's got loads of awesome details on everything that you'll find in the game. And lots of excellent concept art as well.
Get in the boat, boy.
And the depth of this game is just endless.
It is immense, yes.
And in preparation for the stream, I'm thinking about, again, we'll get into this later, Kratos' past. So if you don't know, Kratos is from ancient Greece, and he was the god of war after defeat. So this doesn't count as spoilers because these are all the old games. His skin is white because
Still want me to tie it to the boat?
He was tricked into murdering his wife and daughter, and as punishment they were burned to ash, and that ash has stuck to his skin. So he is forever marked by the most horrifying thing he's ever done. And then also the bloody rags around his wrists are where the Blades of Chaos were burned onto his skin. And I found out through an interview that the reason the wounds are always bloody is because they never stop bleeding. And so that's it.
Father?
Around his wrist, we couldn't get
Something change?
quite.
The forest feels
Well, sorry, I
different.
understand. I never played any of the old God of War
Everything
games
is
when
different,
I
boy.
first started this one,
Try not to dwell.
so it was all entirely fresh
Chester.
to me. But it drew me in, like, from the word go. As soon as I started wearing the boat down the river, I was already on board with the story, I think. It just has a way of drawing you in, making you want to know what's going to happen.
So have you played any of the original games?
I've seen some of them being played very briefly. Like the beginning of, I think it was God of War 3. But no, I've never played any of them myself, no.
Wow.
No, so
In
this
that
is my
case...
first game that I played of God of War.
And that is fascinating, because you're coming from the very end, the very latest one, and I'm coming from the very first one. And so I can't put into words how, if you think this beginning is impactful just as it is, the start of every single God of War game is like the groundbreaking, genre-defining, like exercise in scale of the most massive bosses you could possibly have right at the start. It always starts with the most massive thing. So this starting with just this quiet, intimate, just stunning bit of cinematography is jaw-dropping. Let's just take a second to... Sorry, what were you going to say?
I said they don't do things by halves, do they?
No.
You can say that. Sorry, Matt, you were going to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a second to like appreciate the stunning music.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there do I see my mother. Oh, there do I see my father. Oh, there do they call to me. Oh, there do they call to me.
So check out the warm, soft lighting of the candles.
Mm.
Oh, there do they call to me.
Incredibly good.
Oh, there do they call to me. Oh, there do they call to me.
And then the cold black and white of the scary father figure, which is what Kratos represents to Atreus.
Yeah.
She's ready.
It's like a blank wall, impenetrable.
And that light showed so clearly, you can see it in his eyes, that it's a warm source of warmth to him, and comfort and growth.
Mm.
You are free.
I think this part of the game that just makes you so curious about this woman and who she is and what happened to her in the journey that you're about to go on. There's all sorts of questions flying around my head. We have a comment on chat, catch 5056. So the way the God of War series matures with this is remarkable. I think we can basically because I think a lot of people, even if they haven't played the previous God of War games, know that the tone is totally different in this new one.
Yeah, it's just, I think without having played it, it's impossible to truly appreciate the scale of the change.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Squeeze.
That must have
This knife.
really hurt quite a lot.
It was hers.
And despite the horrible, disgusting, bloody rag, that's a really impactful display of Kratos is giving part of himself to his son.
She knew.
Yeah.
Show me.
You can tell that he wants
Now.
to be more fatherly, but he doesn't quite know how.
Mm.
And that shows itself time and time again.
And it really makes sense if you think about he was a Spartan, born in Sparta. So how would he know how to be a caring, loving father?
What are we hunting?
A lot
You
of
are
the
hunting deer.
men in Sparta, they were just trained up to be warriors and
Which way?
fighters. and the
In the
women kind
direction
of
of deer.
backed them up at
Okay,
home, more or less. So their role was much more
This way.
home-based, but obviously,
Um,
you know, there's this famous quote, isn't there, from Spartan women, if you're, I forget what it was exactly, I think one of their sons went out and she said, if you
Father?
come back,
Why are we doing this now?
make sure you
I need to
bring
know
back
you
your
can
shield.
survive the
You know,
journey.
either,
Then we leave for the
I forget
mountain?
exactly, I've kind
Depends
of
on
ruined
you.
it now,
come
but
back
it's
with your
either
shield
come
or
back
upon
with
it.
your shield or on it. Yes, that's it, that's the one thinking that. See, I should know really, having studied ancient. But yeah,
Can I just check?
What did you find?
Are you watching on Twitch at the minute?
Not deer,
I
though.
am, yes, yeah.
Is the
keep
audio
looking.
level of our voices and the gameplay good?
I will just check. Yeah,
Excellent.
it is perfect, as far as I can tell. All smooth and no issues with lag or anything.
Fantastic. Let's talk for a second about also level design. The very subtle ways in which we are pointed in the right direction. We have these tiny little candles that stand out in the wilderness, and this one is to sort of encourage you not to go straight forward, but to have a little look around and go, oh look, we found a little collectible.
Boy, you missed these.
Huh.
I will turn myself
Close.
up. I've just had
But
a
also not deer.
comment about my
See?
volume, so I'll do
Tips are
that
too
now.
wide.
Cool.
Mountains
Sorry,
up?
I am very quiet,
Your mother taught you
generally
well.
speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the official 10-minute warning. We will now be going into spoiler-laden territory. So no topic will be off limits. So if you are interested enough to want to play the game for yourself without having us spoil any of it, then log off now. But if not, stay around and we'll get into some of the plumbing the depths of this. But first off, something very simple and enjoyable. Because that's how Kratos rolls.
So good. It never gets old either. It's just so good.
It's one of those things
There's
like...
something just very
More
satisfying
tracks?
about a lot of
Yeah.
the
But
a
they're
lot
too
of the
round.
in-game animations,
Could
and
be a wild
especially
boar.
around combat as
Good.
well. Even though it's very visceral and
Now
violent,
what?
it is very satisfying at the same time.
This way, boy.
Hup! Oh. Wait, deer tracks. They're fresh. This way. Huh. Ah! Found it!
Slow down, boy.
Sorry.
You are hunting deer, not chasing it.
Yes, Father. We broke our bridge. How are we gonna get
I have
across?
to say, it's looking
Step
stunning
aside.
already.
Oh, here we go.
Wow.
Go.
What happened here?
What you were saying just then about...
There it is!
Hold! What are you doing? Now its guard is up. Only fire. Only fire. When I tell you to fire.
I'm sorry.
Do not be sorry. Be better. Fight.
that breath when he goes and then pauses.
Find.
The entire past history of his game and how Kratos has been ruled by his rage. The fact that he can take that breath, that is an undescribable level of depth to that.
Yeah, very good. Just amazing being just working on trying to explain.
Okay, here we go. And I read a fascinating thread on why the combat in God of War is so incredible that we'll have a chat about after we've...
I'm very curious to know how does it feel with the PlayStation 5 controller.
Oh, it's awesome. The new haptic controls. I'm playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The most awesome thing is diving into water. It really feels like you've just dived in hands first. So when you hit an enemy with the Leviathan axe, it freezes solid. At the minute, because it hasn't given me the sprint tutorial left, so it won't let me sprint. On the combat front, see if you can spot the next time I hit an enemy that the frame freezes for a second. So when it makes contact, it's sort of Kratos and the enemy freeze.
Yeah.
Draugr. They've never come this close to our woods before.
Because that somehow it makes it feel more impactful.
Yeah, like
Something
you
you
can
can-
really feel the flow.
I think I was reading it. I follow
Up there!
the main combat designer
You wouldn't be
for
able
this
to
game on Twitter.
But Mom told me never
And
to
he
go
does
We do
fantastic
what we
threads
please,
about
boy.
how
No excuses.
the combat works and why it works.
Can I have my bow back now?
Can you hit it from here?
We should get closer.
I'm just going to pause for a sec to try and change some of my volume levels.
No problem.
Okay, can you say something?
I went hunting
Yeah.
with Mother a bunch of
Ah,
times.
that's so much better.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you when we were in the middle of the
I know.
Oh,
battles.
really? Oh, I'm sorry.
It was time.
Perhaps you were just fighting too loudly.
Yeah, it was just I had to change the ratio of.
Ah, I see. Yeah. Yeah, that's always a bit fiddly. I remember the first time this popped up for me, and the information about the enemy house bar came up, and it just made me jump because I was already so nervous about. And then I went into photo mode by accident. I always do that. I make a habit of whenever I accidentally go into photo mode to just take a picture. So
Yeah.
I've got a lot of very random pictures in my capture camera. But there's, even in the early part of the game here, there's so many secrets that you can find in like little passages. You can go and find extra chests down and all sorts of stuff if you're into that kind of thing. Oh, photo mode.
Something iconic
Is that
that they've carried across is the ability to see things that you can't get to yet, and then
Oh,
you know
yeah,
that you
yeah.
can come back to it.
Definitely. Always such a tease, isn't it? Like, I want to know how to get to that, but how? And sometimes you won't have the right abilities. That's always something I quite like about games, is when you level up, you can go back to places and just explore them in a new way.
Something that they get completely right, which is what you mentioned a second ago, is you can throw the axe a billion times and it's satisfying every single time. And that's something that it shares with like the portal gun in Portal.
Where are you going?
You could just go.
What?
He can no longer use it. We can.
It's so clever the way they've designed all the different chests as well, because obviously there are the small ones where you just get the odd bit of gold and things. And then the larger ones, which are heavier and harder to open, which have obviously
Wait for my mark.
stuff that's a little bit more handy for you.
Relax. Do not think of
So
it
you
as
could
an
identify
enemy.
the chest by colour as well, I
Simply a
think,
target.
from what I
Clear
remember.
your mind.
So if you know
And-
you're looking for a
Steady your
specific
aim
thing, you
and
can
breathe in.
single it out.
I got it.
Good.
When Kratos just says "good," then that's such a the acting in this is sublime. So much
It's
in
incredible.
every word.
Did you ever see the making of documentary that they did for it?
Yeah.
It's so
The
good.
knife.
And the way they often mention, everyone who's played this game knows,
No.
they've filmed
Finish
it
what you
all
started.
in one sequence, like it doesn't stop. There's no loading screens. Well, there are loading screens, obviously, when you load in, but
And
from
no
start
camera
to finish,
cuts.
exactly, there's no camera cuts, so it just gives it such a cinematic feel.
I can't.
See, I must have seen this about 3 or 4 times over, but I'm still deeply invested emotionally in the story. Just the expressions on their faces, you can tell how many emotions they must be going through.
And that bit is so powerful because Atreus says, "I can't do it," and then Kratos doesn't do it for him. He just helps him get started, and then Atreus finishes it. Because Atreus needs to be able to kill.
Yeah, definitely. And that moment there is just, oh, so many emotions.
And oh shit.
Yeah, that's another thing this game is great at, making you jump right from a very emotional scene into massive action straight away.
Did you watch the very first trailer for this game? The one where it's basically the start of the game.
I think I did. I can't actually remember, to be honest. My memory is rather patchy, like in the build up to the game. But yeah, I think I definitely remember. I did watch some stuff before it came out, and I remember everyone was very, very excited about it.
Because this troll fight happens on a bridge earlier on, and
moved
so
it around, didn't they? Yeah.
yeah,
I remember
that's
now. Yeah, no, I remember.
that's so cheeky of them, just going, "Oh, I think I'm about to fight a troll," and then it doesn't happen, and then they do it here instead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember actually now that you said that. The first time I played it, I was like creeping over the bridge because I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, I'm not
The
there.
most very cool to see. Anyone would think you played it before?
I think this is my 4th playthrough.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really excited to be streaming it and talking about it with you because streaming something is and commenting on it is such a completely different way to experience a game, and I want to be able to experience it again and again.
No, I must get back into my New Game Plus. I left it just after the beginning of replaying it for the second time. So, as always with my terrible gaming habits, I'll get part way through playing something and then get distracted by something else very quickly.
There are just too many games.
There are too little time.
Oh.
It's so visceral, isn't it? But it's not like disgustingly violent.
No.
Not in the way that some might say maybe games like The Last of Us are bordering on that line a little bit more. Playing devil's advocate here, but like, yeah, it's visceral enough to be exciting, but not too violent as to be.
It's never
difficult
gratuitous.
to watch. Yeah.
With so Last of Us Part 2, I don't think I'll ever play that again because it was too
Oh, that's really interesting
powerful.
How am I not ready?
We are going home.
Because it really showcases the horror. It's not horror so much as the scariness. It's horror in what humans will do to each other.
Yeah, which is, you could argue, much more difficult to deal with when you're watching or playing it, because you're so much more involved as well. It's you that's making the characters do what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation about violence, because the violence in this is it's God of War violence. It's never violence for violence sake, and it's the same with The Last of Us Part 2. And I was just, it's Part 2 is horrifying. Rather than horror, it's horrifying. And I feel like I've really just, it was such a masterpiece. And I don't think I can put myself through that experience again, because it was, I think it's something everyone should experience, but it was really dark, a really dark place to take yourself.
Definitely, yeah, you can't, it's one to play when you're in the right mindset for it, I would say. Judging from what people have been saying. I haven't played it myself because I am not that much into horror games and survival horror and things, which I know it's not quite the same, but like, yeah, it would take a lot of courage for me to play it through, I think.
Still can't get the doors open, huh?
Quiet.
I was so annoyed that I couldn't do anything with it the first time I found it.
Everything looks so beautiful and intriguing and unique.
Yeah, you just want to know what is behind the door. I mean, why wouldn't you want to know? It's a massive door.
Oh, it's so satisfying. One of the things the combat designer said was how you need to strike a balance. You need to feel like you're a god.
Yeah.
But also not just feel overpowered. And they get that perfectly.
Like, it's so exciting every time you get the chance to press down R3, because you know, right, that's one definitely gone and it's going to look really cool. And you get that nice little moment of, oh, that's such a cool thing. And then you have to go back to fighting and turning the tide in the battle.
And what I just did then was I stepped back a couple of meters to show that when you press the R3, it's very, very forgiving with how far away you are. And that makes you feel like even more of a badass, because you're not just grabbing at thin air.
Yeah. I love that the axe is used for traversal purposes as well as for combat.
And puzzles.
And puzzles.
The puzzles are so cool.
Yeah, they are.
Now be silent. We are almost home.
It just looks so good, Matt.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Makes me want to jump on it right now, but I'm chatting to you.
Inside, boy.
And we need you watching to pump up the viewer figures.
I do. Yeah. We can always cut up highlights for later. That's interesting. Catch, who's been watching, says that he's not a collectibles guy in games, but because all of the collectibles in this game had a purpose, he did actually go and look for them.
That's so
How
true.
do you feel about that? I think some games are definitely collectibles for collectibles' sake. But I just like getting all the collectibles, whatever. I don't mind at all, because that's kind of my vibe. But yeah, these ones all definitely have a purpose.
Everything in this game is so deliberate, worthwhile getting.
Even after you finish the main game, there's so much after to do as well, isn't there?
I'm one trophy away from platinum this, and the only ones I haven't got are the Odin's Ravens.
Gosh. Yeah, those ones are tricky. Always so frustrating when you can hear it as well and you can't. It's like, where is it? Oh, I hope you can get it though. If you need help, I'm happy to chip in for any. If I can help.
Okay.
You lost control.
That thing was trying to kill us.
Oh.
It's not like you don't get anger in the fight.
Anger can be a weapon. If you control it, use it. You clearly cannot. When you
I haven't been sick in a long time. I'm better now.
Fine.
Every discussion with them is so intense. There's so many
Come on, then.
emotions under wraps, isn't there? So much undiscussed.
I want you to try.
And it's
It
such a
comes through.
it's such a unique,
Ow!
two unique characters having a unique relationship.
Why are you doing that?
Too slow. Try again.
Cut it out!
Weak. Again. Again.
Stop it!
Again.
Seems like Kratos' anger is genetic, because it's like that's part of his god powers, is his rage. So he's definitely trying to save his son from it.
That ahead is difficult. And you, Mattreus,
Yeah.
are clearly not ready.
But as we all know, there's sometimes you can hide it too much.
Hopefully we'll get to talk about, like,
Come on out! There's no use hiding anymore. I know who you are.
What's going on? Do you know him?
More importantly, I know what you are.
Boy, beneath the floor. Now.
But you told me never to go down there. Who is that?
I do not know.
What's he talking about?
Gosh.
Get in.
I love
I
how
love
it
that-
adds to the sense of mystery by putting stranger in the subtitle.
No need for this to get bloody.
oh, he's all little.
I thought you'd be bigger. But you're definitely the one. Long way from home, aren't you?
What do you want?
I love the way Balder's looking at him, just sort of trying to,
As you seek, I do
just
not have it.
scanning him and analysing him.
You should move on.
Definitely, yeah. You can see it in his eyes, can't you?
And here I
He's
thought
just sizing him up.
Kind was supposed to be so enlightened.
Were you
so much
quite shocked at the
better,
turn of
so
events
much
that's
smarter.
due to happen in the next
You
minute or so?
hide out here in
First time
I
you saw
was,
it?
I was
cowards.
just overwhelmed,
You
and how
do not want this fight.
I'm pretty sure I do.
in the past Kratos would have ripped his head off just
Yeah.
for crawling, just for being noisy.
Home.
Yeah.
Are going to have to kill me for that to happen.
And Kratos gives him every chance.
It does.
I warned you.
And you feel so, like Kratos is so powerful when he's just punching him and not getting hurt at all.
And Balder's just small and skinny.
He is a weakling.
That bit of him going, no, 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 is so powerful when you...
My turn.
So we know that I think that Odin told Balder. So everyone knows Balder is completely invulnerable to harm. He can't be killed, but the trade-off is that he is completely numb. He can't feel anything. And I think that Odin was searching for Atreus, and he told Balder that whoever he was searching for was the one who would be able to cure his condition, which is eventually what Atreus does. But obviously Balder arrives, and because you take one look at Kratos and you go, of course this is the one that I'm going to fight, and he's going to be the one that can hurt me. So that's why when Kratos punches him, then he was hoping that's going to be the time I'm finally going to be cured. But then he doesn't, and he's going, no, 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 no. And just horrifying.
That's why replaying it is always a good idea.
And just with the actor of Balder, just the way he performs really shows you how Balder has been driven insane by not being able to feel anything. Because at some point it's mentioned that it's been 100 years that Balder has been completely numb.
Yeah, I have a timeline in my book. Let me see if I can.
Ooh, do you?
Yeah, I have Atreus' Norse timeline.
Oh,
It's
awesome!
very exciting, and it goes back to over 200 years before the story. So I'm just going to have a look through, see if I can find a bit where I mention the story.
Struck a nerve, did I?
Wow, I did not know that. 115 years ago, before the story, it says that father arrived in the Northlands. So he actually came to the Northlands 115 years before the story that we're watching right now.
Wow,
I wouldn't have guessed that.
interesting. I've never heard that talked about before.
No, neither had I. Gosh. Yeah, I just thought he'd sort of maybe 20 years, but not 115. I did find out also that Atreus is about 13 or 14 years old by the time you finish the game.
I'm fascinated by the timeline. What else does it say?
I'll have it.
We just take a second to look at this mural. Have you seen this mural before?
Have I seen it? Oh, probably have.
And you see, it's the giant from the end with the thing in his head.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And Corey Barlog, the director, was so smug when he pointed out that, oh yeah, it's been there right from the beginning.
Of course. He would put something like that in.
Yeah.
Kratos and Faye, my parents, first meet in Midgard 40 years ago. Both are warriors by nature, so their instinct is to fight, but amazingly they yielded as quickly as they started. They talk and become friends. Both are sick of war and violence.
Is this an official book?
Yes, I can tell you when it was published. It's fairly recent.
Because these are answering questions I've wondered about that I couldn't find the answers to anyway.
It's such a cool book. I haven't actually read fully through it yet because I was saving it up for when I know more about God of War 2. But it was published in 2020, so indeed, very, very recently. And it's God of War, Lore and Legends, just in case the title is there. And it's published by Dark Horse Books.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. And the front and back cover are like the texture of the tree trunk at the very beginning, which is really cool as well. I love books like that.
Oh, I'm so excited to learn more about
I
that.
completely missed that you've crashed Boulder. Well done. Too engrossed in my book.
A little bit of silence, and then fuck.
Oh gosh, it's so epic.
And just managing to be two just humans creating one of the most stunning epic fights I've ever seen.
I mean, they're literally pushing the ground apart.
In the original games, like the sort of things you start off with, you fight the Hydra, you fight the Colossus of Rhodes, you fight just the most biggest possible things, and this one at the very start you fight this tiny little bloke. That's why it's so funny when Boulder, the first thing he said was, I thought you'd be bigger.
Yeah. It's like a little in-joke almost, isn't it?
Nothing can. This fight is pointless. Your struggle is pointless. It didn't have to be this way.
145 years before the story, Freya gives birth to Boulder. Soon after she hears a prophecy of her son's early death, she spends the next 20 years looking for ways to prevent it.
Nothing. But you feel everything.
It's such a beautiful, tragic story of her and Boulder.
It is. Yeah, especially when you go into hell and you see it all play out and you realise what has been going on.
And every time I think about, imagine going for 100 years without feeling anything, and how that would, you just go insane, because that is clearly what's happened to Boulder.
Yeah.
Because in
really?
Yeah, in hell, when he's talking to his mum about it, he looks like he's about to kill her, but then he decides not to. And then this shows that he was still him then, but now he's just been driven into this insane monster. But his mother still prioritises herself and calls it love. It's so interesting.
It is. Yeah, there's a whole lot of relationships to explore in this game. So what you would think you would say about the God of War game, is it that it's about relationships? But at the end of the day, I think you could argue that this God of War is.
If you think about with a lot of mythology, especially Greek mythology, it's all about family because they're all related to each other.
Yeah. That is very true.
I think I'm on the verge of dying for the first time in this playthrough. I better pay attention.
Oh.
Come on in.
We can do it. We've got just a quarter of his life left. Very intense when it gets to this stage.
Oh, that was a very cheeky. They so little tricks. You see, then he'd sort of like they both slid really far,
Yeah.
and
Just
that's
back into
because
the...
they and to get you into the right position. That's the only time I've seen that sort of cut before.
Yeah, I think the first time I did it, I got stuck on the edge of the arena, as it were, and then it wasn't doing anything for a little while. I was like, why has it stopped?
Ugh.
Ugh.
That sort of like you look at that horrible wobbly neck. It's horrific.
Yeah, not good. And all the blood splattered everywhere.
So he hasn't had a fight like that in about 120 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't fought a
Gosh, now
god.
you put that into context, it's you can see why he's so knackered.
Was he? He knew me. Did he know my past? How did they find me after all this time?
And even Kratos thinks it's about him. No one knows that it's Atreus that is the focus of the prophecy. And of course,
I
it
think
comes
that's the
true
only
that
time... Sorry, I was going to say, I think that's the only time we hear him say Freya.
Faye. So can you say that again?
Oh, sorry, I said, I think that's the only time we hear him say Freya.
He says Faye, not
Oh,
Freya.
sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. My bad. Yes. No, but anyway, it's the only time, possibly, that he actually refers to her by name.
And it's so clever.
But we cannot stay here.
Even just looking at the wood on the floor and in the doorway, it all looks so good.
There was so much. I
All the
thought
textures. And...
Unique.
all right.
I am all right. Come.
That's such a beautiful relationship. They both love each other so much.
Gather your things.
It's so clear.
We are leaving.
But it's just, it's not as simple as loving someone in a relationship. You need to make it work somehow.
You are not. We have no choice now. Prove me wrong.
Yes, sir.
I love that Atreus wasn't supposed to hear that.
Yeah.
The mountain. It's gonna
I
be a
love how we've
long
already
trip.
done so much,
Yes.
and yet it's only the tiniest part of the game.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Because we could have talked solidly over every second of what we've just witnessed, and not repeat ourselves once.
I do not know.
Yep.
It's incredible.
We're nobodies.
And now you get to go down into the earth that you've just ripped apart.
And you really do feel like you're a god
Never leave me
in
alone.
the God of War games.
Right?
All right.
You've had to kill people before, haven't you? You're used to it.
We do what we must to
It's
survive.
so cute how Atreus climbs on the back all the time.
Draugr,
It just pops up
supposed to be
whenever
king.
you climb as well.
but people
It's such
try
a
to survive too.
fluid
To it.
relationship.
On our journey, we will be attacked by all manner of creature. Close your heart to their desperation. Close your heart to their suffering. Do not allow yourself
That's
to
so
weep
pretty.
for them. Bring
Those two lines are some of the way that Kratos is teaching Atreus to kill are so important.
Has this
Yeah,
been
there's so
all
many
this
life
time?
lessons, isn't there, that he just gives.
can get a better look.
I can't even begin to imagine what they're going to do with the second game.
Nowhere to go from.
I know, I'm so excited.
Think any lower from there?
I think there's a state of play tonight that Sony are doing, but I doubt
Oh
there's
my
anything on there.
God, I hadn't thought of that. Imagine if they
10 o'clock
if they
tonight.
Yes, sir.
I know. Just sneak it in there, sneakily.
Yeah.
Just a little trailer, that's all we want.
Good idea.
Took me a while to figure out this puzzle the first time I did it. But it's
I
very,
love-
very clever.
Hanging bucket.
Because
I-
the axe is has the power to freeze things so naturally. You need to use it that way in puzzles as well.
Oops.
Worshipping the gods?
The gods
Hey,
care
there we
for
go.
Oh no.
men should not pray to monsters.
It's like whenever you put a USB in the hole, you always get it wrong the first time.
Okay, let's try that again. I love that Kratos climbs without using his feet. Because he's such a lad.
Mm.
Father? Will we see others on the road?
Oh gosh, it's so beautiful.
Friendly?
No,
They'll try and rob us?
possibly. Yes.
Oh.
I can't get over how good it looks.
And this is just a tiny little cavern.
I know. That's what's so exciting. Because I know what the rest of the game looks like. Oh.
Look. All this time, there's been a protection stave around our entire woods.
I didn't realise that was what the trees were.
The stave's broken there.
Yeah, I know.
Did you cut those down?
And you
So
start to understand what's been going on. There's a much bigger story that's
How'd you
unfolding.
do that?
Come. No looking back now.
I think it was in that moment when Mattreus asks why there's a hole, and Kratos has realised that that's that Faye made the staves, and she told him she marked the trees with her hand, the ones that she wanted to cut down. So that has meant that Kratos and Atreus are forced to go on their journey straight away, because Kratos would rather just sit around and do nothing for a while.
Yeah.
That she's forcing him to get his ass moving.
Do you think after over 100 years that he'd want to start doing something?
I do not.
I don't know. You wait till you play the 12 games before this, and you'll see why he might be a little bit tired of fighting.
Oh, now we get some slightly upgraded joggers.
Still ripped into shreds. And no one ever talks about the shield. I have never heard any interview, anything about the shield. It's all about the weapons and the fighting. But the shield is a masterpiece.
Especially when you get the skills that go with it later on as well. And you can do the parry, like exactly like what you've just done, which is so cool. Because obviously, as we know, as we previously discussed, the shield is super important to Spartan people.
Be kind of hard to carry someone on it though.
Very true. Yeah.
Ooh, another thing about the combat and why it feels so impactful is there's a slight screen shake every time you make contact, so it feels like the entire world is shaking. And also, whenever you hit an enemy, they sort of flinch back in the direction that you hit them. They don't just go back in a random direction.
I always felt like there was an extra sense of jeopardy to the combat as well, where if Atreus is involved, because you start feeling protective of him very, very quickly.
And I really feel that sense of why Kratos is being so specific about teaching him how to kill and defend himself. Because he knows that if Atreus can't do that, then he won't be able to survive. And Kratos knows that he can't protect him from everything. And I was just thinking about imagining the...
How was that? Did I help?
So if you take this situation in a vacuum, Kratos is taking his young son through a very dangerous journey. So his son will always be in danger. His son has no experience with this. That'd terrify you as a father enough. But then you remember Kratos' past, and that the only other time he had a child, he actually killed the child. It was his fault that they died. So can you imagine the terror of not only starting a new relationship, but having another child?
I think you got him.
It just compounds everything, and it's the strength of the actors that I can really feel that, the weight of that in their performance.
I definitely feel like there's some backstory, like in the book that I have as well. We've just discovered a lot of stuff we didn't know from just the game. So I expect the actors will probably know a little bit more than we do. Especially leading into God of War 2. There's probably a lot of backstory, which I hope we can find out more about, because it's just fascinating. Just a heads up, Matt, we've got about 3 minutes left before we reach an hour of streaming.
Cool.
There's the mountain.
Should we get to
Not yet.
It's fine.
there's a little fight coming up. How about we do that and then we can call it a night?
Good idea. Yeah. That's a good stopping point, for sure.
Oh, almost there.
I knew you were going to slip through the bridge. You can't not fall through the rickety bridge.
That wasn't so bad.
I wonder how many times that's become a trope in video games now.
Cost us.
Sorry.
Which bit?
The falling through the bridge bit. It's quite uncharted.
But these aren't moving. Are they dead? I mean, more dead?
Boy.
Not dead, not dead!
Boy.
And another thing, he says boy a million times, but he never says it the same way twice.
No. And you can always tell exactly how he feels from the way that he says it.
Talking about like tropes, you reminded me that one thing that The Last of Us in particular is extremely guilty of is when you sort of shimmy through a crack and then you get attacked by someone just on the other side and you never learn to check before you go through.
No, yeah. I always hate that. It scares me so much. Doing a grand job.
Haven't died yet.
No, don't think so.
I think we'll end off with a nice big rage fest.
Yay.
I love that the colour palette changes, so it's sort of like it is an ash coloured when you're angry. It goes all ash and orange
does not matter if you fire only once. Show me control.
Hooray. I think we'll end it there. It's a
Yeah.
lot more tiring doing the streaming than I thought it would be.
No, it was just the right amount of time. I think you've done an excellent job, Matt. Thank you for inviting me to join you.
I'm so glad to have you here. It's been so interesting having a conversation with someone who's played the game as well.
Lovely stuff. Hopefully we can be back for another round of streaming if you want to do it another round.
100%.
Awesome. Well,
Okay,
we'll see
cool.
you all very soon.
Yes, we are gaming the system. We've unleashed our latest bonus round, which is a pub quiz. So if you find us on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, you should be able to find a link to that. Play along, and then we'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. sharp for another live stream episode. So thanking you and see you soon.
Bye bye.